it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a butterfly wafer paper cake. Now you could probably do this portion with an edible printer, but for most of us, we don't really have edible printers that we use that often, or maybe you just don't even have one at all. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking some wafer paper, which is fairly inexpensive, and then I'm using an edible marker to kind of draw in these lines and trace over the butterfly. I took the same butterfly and I just kind of made it in varying sizes. Now, wafer paper is an amazing material and it's really easy to work with. You can either kind of use it just like paper, so if you're into scrapbooking, then you could probably come up with some cool ideas on how to use wafer paper, or you can also use it to make things like flowers as well to look a little bit more realistic. The beauty of wafer paper, however, is once you wet it, it really can change the texture and it can do different things. And I'm going to be showing you how wetting this does change it a little bit. Whenever I'm making one cake from start to finish without stopping, I generally do things in a very particular order as opposed to when I make multiple cakes at once. This is an eggless cake that I made and it's actually vegan. If you want to go and check that out, I have the link in the right hand corner to a full video on that. And I'm actually just using some regular American buttercream today. Now I'm going to be airbrushing these little wafer paper pieces, and because I'm airbrushing with a really light hand, nothing is curling up because it's not becoming too wet yet. You really want to make sure if you're painting things that you don't make it too wet or else things will start to curl on you. I have to say, after using this edible marker several times, I'm not super happy with the saturation. I really love it when edible markers can really saturate and make that super black, but it'll do for this project. Now I'm just taking some gold luster dust and mixing it with a little bit of vodka and then putting it on the edges of my butterfly. Now adding this vodka to the wafer paper is what's going to cause it to curl, but I do want it to curl on the ends of my butterfly, so that's why I am totally fine with putting it on there. If I didn't want curling, then I would have just put on straight luster dust instead, and it would give more of a shiny feel. I'm going to be texturizing this buttercream later, so I do want to make sure that I do a couple crumb coats with that American buttercream. Oh, and I should also mention the reason that I'm doing the American buttercream is of course because there are no eggs, unlike my Italian meringue buttercream. Now I am making the bodies of the butterflies, which I am making out of fondant. You could do this with modeling chocolate or gum paste as well. It's really easy to do when you are doing it not on the wire. Doing it on the wire like I am here is a little bit tricky because you do have to make sure that everything is sticking to the wire appropriately and not just falling off. Some of this might be a little bit of trial and error for you, but the way I found the fondant stuck the best is if I kind of pinched it from behind the body. And then to add in my wafer paper wings, I just kind of stuck it into that fondant with a little bit of water. Here is my final coat of buttercream that I'm going to be putting on, and I'm just going to make this white. I'm planning on airbrushing this later, but you're going to see how I kind of have a little bit of an airbrushing fail. I've owned this texturizing comb for a while, but for some reason I only started using it this year, and I absolutely love it. So I actually applied this airbrush fairly well, especially for the effect that I was going for, which is an ombre effect, but what I didn't like was the dullness of the color. So this is a pink edible airbrush color, and I've used it before, and I think because I didn't shake it up enough, it didn't come out quite nice. So I just had to redo it a little bit and finesse things. The great thing about buttercream, especially when you've done a sufficient amount of crumb coats first, is that you can just keep going, and if you don't like it, then try again, and it's really no big deal. It actually didn't take me very long to fix this error at all. Using that leftover buttercream that has a little bit of that pink mixed in as well, I put it into a piping bag with a star tip or a 1M tip. Once you get the hang of making buttercream rosettes, they're so easy and so satisfying to pipe out. You'll notice that I'm piping out some on the side of the cake as well. Now, if you've ever experienced trouble with doing that, it's probably because your buttercream isn't the right consistency. So if you need help with consistency of your buttercream icings, please check out this video in the right-hand corner. Now, if you're preparing this cake in advance and you want to place it in the fridge overnight, have no fear. You can definitely put on all of your wafer paper details and your fridge will not affect the cake. However, if you notice that your fridge does produce a lot of condensation, I would definitely wait to put on those details. Looking at this cake, I decided it needed just that little bit more, and you guys, if you've watched my channel before, you've seen me make this rose a million times, so I decided to kind of expedite my explanation of this process. There's plenty of other videos where I give a more in-depth explanation if you would like one. Now I'm going to be applying some gold leaf, and I'm just using one sheet for this cake. I don't want to go too over the top with the gold leaf, so just a little bit here and there to give it nice movement in the cake. Some people like to take the whole sheet and kind of stamp it right onto the cake and then do it that way. I like to use chopsticks because they get the most control out of it, and I don't have to wait for the cake to re-chill in order for me to stamp it on. Whenever you're creating things on a wire, you really want to think about what your cake is going to be looking like. So what I did was I kind of bent the wires because I had a particular vision of how I wanted those butterflies to be flying. This cake's sufficiently chilled overnight, so I'm just taking some luster dust mixed with a little bit of vodka and putting it on the edge of this cake. I get the question a lot about why I use vodka mixed with my luster dust as opposed to like a lemon extract, for example. The reason is because using a lemon extract can leave a little bit of an aftertaste on the cake. Vodka, however, is so high in alcohol content that it evaporates before any weird aftertaste can go into your cake. Aside from the fact that it does evaporate very quickly, so you're really not ingesting any alcohol at all, you're also using a very tiny amount. I love a super glittery moment, so I slowed this down so you could see that edible glitter spray going onto our cake. Now it's time for the pricing of this cake, and if you are a cake decorator or someone that runs your own home baking business or bakery, I can probably guarantee you that you'll get some sort of request of a variation of this type of cake. I always find with single-tiered cakes, it's a little bit more straightforward with the pricing. I will make note of the fact that an eggless cake is a little bit of a special request, so if you don't normally make eggless cakes, you would want to put an extra charge on that type of cake. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!